Perfect. We are live. Let's wait a little bit. Good.
Yes, we're live indeed.
Good. So, Patrick, thank you for joining. It's a great to have you. We've known each other for a long time. We created this this kind of. We are trying kind of a new space to try and give more voices to the work being done on enterprise adoption on Cardano. I mean, we speak a lot about DeFi and all the obvious things of blockchain, but there's a lot being done behind the scenes for a long time about the enterprise adoption, and we want to start conversation and discussing with the people that are doing it. I think we're in an interesting point in time where we kind of focus in the last 7-8 years of Cardano in kind of protocol, infrastructure, technology tooling, and we are kind of starting to get to a phase where we are ready to go really into adoption and enterprise integration and all these use cases. So this is another reason and timing that I think are very important. Let me just start with me briefly, and then we move to you, and then we start diving into the subject. So, yeah, I mean, I think on Cardano in the last 5-6 years, and through Elk Connect, a lot of my work has been discussion all the time with enterprises and trying to onboard them to blockchain and see what the needs are. And obviously, I'm also doing it within the Andamio and Sandal teams, just kind of targeting different enterprises. But all I do all day is actually speaking with enterprises, learning their needs, and trying to see how Cardano can fit their needs. So this is my passion about the subject and some experience around that. I'm very excited about 2023, but I want also to hear from you. So maybe you do, I mean, everyone probably knows you here, but you do a quick intro and specifically start kind of.
Yeah, you just said you're excited for 2023. I'm excited for 2030 actually. But yeah, no, we know what you mean. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really nice. It's crazy. We've known each other for multiple years now, and we've done so many things. And at the beginning, you were really shy and you were very behind the scenes, and everyone knew you, but you never were online or on Twitter or so. And now you're doing more with this podcast, which I think is really good.
Thank you. It's not my comfort zone to be in the front, but yeah, it's a pleasure to do it.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to do it. Yeah, it's also not my comfort zone. I kind of force myself to do it more. But yeah, I think I actually think that Cardano is in a critical phase right now. There's a lot of things happening, and there's a few things that have to go right, I think. And but I'm more positive about it than maybe the general crypto sentiment is at the moment. I mean, at the moment, everyone is like, "Oh, Cardano is dying, this, that." But I don't believe in that. Actually, I think that there's a very high chance that that some of the projects will be breakout successes, and that we're doing something which can really accelerate Cardano, bring a lot of transactions, and make Cardano sustainable long term. And so yeah, and I'm still here, I'm still building. So and many others are. So I think it will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, let's say again, before we jump kind of into, I want really to jump into your experience and some more concrete. I think one thing that is very cool that the product committee did last year is kind of they worked on the vision of Cardano, and they kind of came up with KPIs for 2030 KPIs, which is a great start because it gives you kind of an objective how you can meet the KPIs. You can still discuss them and see if they're aggressive enough. You can choose them, but it's a good benchmark to start with. So I think this is great. And this kind of, for me, my North Star now, when we speak about enterprise adoption, so how can we support and help to achieve these KPIs in the beginning? So kudos to the product committee and everyone that worked on that. But maybe we jump in. Tell us, in terms of enterprise adoption, maybe a little bit, I mean, you started with NMaker, obviously, and now a lot of focus on Masumi. But maybe you can start, your experience with enterprise adoption. Also, finance is another kind of with the gold. We see now the gold is skyrocketing, so there's so much around there. But maybe let's start with your work around enterprise adoption.
Yeah, I mean, I started in Cardano more than 4.5 years ago at this point, and I came right from university. I never had a real job. I had a internship at PwC, so I saw what enterprise looks like from inside. But of course, an internship is just an internship. But I never had a real job. I started just building Endmaker out of fun, and then it became a success very quickly. And then I said, okay, now I'm gonna double down, and I'm really gonna try to make this successful. I think I realized very quickly, and the team as well, that the hype around ape pictures for NFTs and so on is not sustainable, and we need to find good use cases for NFTs. And that's kind of how we entered more this like serious kind of business approach and world. And we tried to talk to many enterprises and to many companies and established Web2 kind of companies, bringing them to Cardano, selling them on the idea and what it can help achieve for them. And I had to learn a lot there, because obviously, I came from university, I didn't know anything. So I had to learn, I had to try it out, and I did try it out. And I think there's almost no company in Cardano that has talked to more businesses in the Web2 world than Endmaker has. Like, there was a time where we really were just everywhere out there. And some of these projects worked, some of them didn't. But the one thing that was true is that we really were successful in learning, because we learned about how to approach enterprises, how to approach real world businesses, and how to work with them. And this has then translated over to the NFT bubble kind of burst a little bit. And we also searched for a new direction, which we found with Masumi. We had basically 1 year of searching the direction, where we tried all kinds of different things. That's also including finance, where we said, okay, let's try real world assets, because the technology behind the scenes is the same as Endmaker. Let's try this, let's try that. And then we said, okay, Masumi is really what we want to focus on, bringing together agents and blockchain. And Masumi, of course, we are not doing alone. We're also doing with another company, which is actually an enterprise. The company is called Service Plan Group, and so you hear it in the name already. It's a group of, I think, 200 plus sub agencies. So it's really about media, about marketing, and they have a lot of these agencies. They have 7,000 employees. They have, I think, like 800, 900 million in revenue every year. So it's really a large company, and they did not choose Cardano because they want to do something on Cardano. They chose to work with us because they thought we have the right expertise to build the products that they want to build for this like AI future that they're envisioning. And that's how we got started with them. And then we built on Cardano because we think it's the best technology for it. But in reality, no one cares if it's Cardano or any other chain, as long as it does what it promises to do. We can go into that in more detail later.
No, I think this is extremely important, right? Because sometimes when we build technology, we say we have technology and people will come. But there is a huge gap, especially for enterprises, kind of, I mean, they don't even understand the technology or dive into that, right?
Yes.
So, or definitely the differences between different blockchains, and I mean, it's too complex for them. So,
yes,
what you say, the most important thing for in your case, which I see it a lot, is actually they connected to you, they trusted you.
Yeah.
You started to share with them your experience. How did it go? How did the process go? I mean,
yeah, it's actually
and how much time it took, and how did you meet them?
It took a very long time. We actually, so the way we met was, we had a pretty good presence in Germany, as one of the few blockchain companies in Germany, and we met this guy Sebastian by just being there, and he's a big Cardano fan, he's a very technical person, he understood it, and he wanted to do a project with us essentially. And he was following me for a while on Twitter and like knew, okay, Endmaker is pretty legit, why not do work with them? So we came together and we actually pitched a project to one of the largest car manufacturers in Germany. So like, I can't name the name about it, but there's not that many. There's like Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen and so on. So one of them. And we pitched a project, basically a whole really cool idea, really big deal. And the pitch was accepted. but then the project got cut in like some budget reshuffling internally, so we never executed on it. So it's very sad that this happened, but at least we were in contact with Sebastian. We did something together, even though nothing really happened with it. We were already in his like kind of mind. And then 1 year later, he came back to us and he said, "Look, I've been thinking. I think that blockchain and AI are really a perfect fit for each other." And his job is to be the I think the transformation officer of Serviceplan Group. So his job is to think about the future. Where is everything going? And of course, agencies are very scared right now of AI because essentially a lot of the work that they have been doing in the past can be either replaced or enhanced with AI. So they have to stay at that thing. So he was thinking about, okay, where's this going? How can we solve the problems that we're going to have in the future today? And he figured out that blockchain is the correct way to do it. And he wanted to do it with us because we established trust before. We knew each other. So he came to Zurich. We had a whole day workshop where he pitched us the idea, explained everything that he wanted to do. And then we said, okay, let's start, let's build it. And because of that, we came together. So essentially, it took, I would say it took 2 years. 1 year of Sebastian just following us and learning about us passively, then getting in contact with us, trying a project, it failed, then another year, and then we started with Masumi. So it took 2 years to even start with the small project. Yeah.
No, it's amazing, and it resonates a lot with me. You said 3 things that are very important there. It's you build trust, right, over time.
Yes.
And actually, when you build the best trust, actually, when you fail. When
Yes,
you fail
exactly.
something, when everything goes up, everyone is happy. But when things doesn't go good, this is actually when you get to know the people and you start trusting them
Yeah.
and collaborating. Needless to say, I mean, probably, you worked even without earning anything during this period. It's kind of working together to try and build something.
Yeah.
Then came the need, right, which is very important. And the need actually came from them. So it's not that we came with technology and said, this is your technology. No, there is a specific need, and they're trying to see how the technology can fit that.
Yeah.
And the third time, it's time. I mean, this thing just takes time, right, to build.
Yes.
So if you want to see the results, and we need to have a proactive, collaborative approach on Cardano, we just need to know there's time to do it, but then eventually you are able to make partnership with such an incredible, huge company.
Exactly. And I think one thing which is also very important here is like, when you talk to larger companies, there's a lot of governance internally, and they have a lot of committees and boards and all this kind of stuff. And especially companies like Serviceplan, where it's a partner kind of basis, and there's a lot of agencies, a lot of sub agencies. They are even more. They have more difficult governance than you would typically think of. So it's extremely hard to. It's easy to get a pilot through and build something small, but it's extremely hard to get a project through that is actually being used by everyone in that company and that it has a high priority. And I think it's very important that you have to work with companies where it's even possible to do something like that without going through a full committee. And the advantage of Serviceplan is that they're family run. They still have an owner, they're owner run basically. So we can talk to them and we can explain it, and they can take risks that otherwise some of these, like I think almost none of the other media agencies in Europe would be able to do that. So you have to enter at the right kind of seniority level, and not at the bottom of the food chain necessarily. And you have to be able to actually move your product from just a proof of concept to an actual kind of large rollout of the product. And that's
perfect. I love it. I mean, people need to understand, I think, the importance of what you said. So I will kind of focus on that. I mean, it's very normally when you go to a big company, you say, okay, let's start with a pilot, right? And then you prove the pilot and so on. But actually making a project in the level you are making in partnership directly, which is kind of going to be main business for them potentially in the next years, that's really, really incredible. So yeah, well done on that. I think it's extremely difficult. And you started to speak about the challenges, so maybe you speak more. I mean, I will give one anecdote about challenges, about public companies. Sometimes, for us, we can open a wallet in few seconds.
Yep.
I collaborated with a public company to open a wallet because they are Nasdaq traded. They need a board director approval, right? A few billion in the board need to approve opening a Cardano wallet, right? So But maybe you can speak a little bit about the challenges. Time, we mentioned time, so you need patience and time, and then you need to finance your time in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many challenges. I mean, like opening a wallet is one thing. Luckily, we have a lot of like nice, good regulated exchanges in Germany, not in Germany, in Europe that actually accept Cardano, because I think the on-off ramping part is very difficult, and if we do everything with USDM, so with stable coins, right? Which is great because it's a European regulated stablecoin, amazing. But then we need to have an easy way to get that stablecoin actually into dollars or into euros, so that the company can actually interact with that. And there it becomes tricky. And if the only way for you to do that is through like going to Dex Hunter and then swapping it there and then going another step and so on, it becomes really complicated. And there's no real solution right now out there. The one thing that I'm really thankful for is NVX, which is an exchange from Norway that supports USDM and that is regulated in Europe. So we can just tell all of our customers, okay, just go there. Just go to NVX, do the KYC, KYB. It's a hassle. Even the KYC part is like an extreme hassle in a company like that, because it has to go through so many instances and you have to basically get it really high up to like the CEO often, who has to do something, which is very difficult because they don't have a lot of time. There's 7,000 other employees that he has to care about. But once you have that, it helps a lot. And I hope we need more of these kind of solutions for Cardano. That's really what's lacking for enterprises. So yeah.
Extremely important, again, 100%. 100%. And regulation, compliance, that's the biggest risk for these companies, right? Like again, if we speak with big companies and they say, okay, if our clients are opening wallets, they are afraid that they are not in compliance. So compliance is extremely important for them, because otherwise it's their responsibility.
Exactly.
And dealing with money and so on, data privacy and so on. Okay, good. I don't know if you want to speak about other challenges. I mean, there are many, but this is a really extremely important one, I think, that we need the ecosystem to support.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you one challenge that we had in Cardano, specifically in Catalyst, and I know you also struggled with that a bit, is it again comes down to the KYC part. You do a project with like some part of the company, and then you have to do the KYC and get this company on board. And the whole KYC process is tied basically now to the highest level. So even though they're getting money from Catalyst to fund like a pilot or so, that's nice and good, but in the grand scheme of these companies, it's not really that much money in the end. And then you have to, depending on who you're working with, get them to talk to the highest people in the company to do the KYC for Catalyst, which for us meant we literally had to sit down the CEO and like have him do the KYC, have him do the video verification, all that kind of stuff, which is doable if you work with people that are senior enough to get the CEO to do something like that. But in Service Plan, there's only 7,000 people. Imagine if you're working in a company that has 70,000 people or like 100,000 or so. It becomes extremely difficult. So yeah.
Yeah, in Catalyst, there's range of companies, right? So it's tough to satisfy all of them and have different systems for different ones. But I also, in general, think that the funding, I think, at least from my experience, as you mentioned, the funding is not the main motivation for these companies in Catalyst. I mean, the ecosystem collaboration, the trust. I mean, they are a motivation, but it's not the main one. I think they spend probably much more than the funding they get on the solution.
100%.
And still you need to make it something that, as well as the opportunity cost for them, the time, the energy of the company. There's a lot of things behind that they spend that are much more than the cost. And so it's not the main motivation. And then also with enterprises and public funding or grants, not everything you can share with everyone in the company, right? I mean, and that's the reality. And so we need in Cardano to build kind of different maybe mechanism for different type of organization we want to onboard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think Catalyst was fine for a while. It's really nice. I mean, you used it a lot for getting companies to join, which is really a good use case, I think. I used it a lot for NMaker, but also the companies that I'm working with, like Service Plan, have been supported with it, which is really great. But it's essentially an innovation grant, and we're using it for many more things at the moment. Yeah.
I think it's extremely helpful to onboard companies in the beginning to have the discussion, but it's not all they're looking for. And and it's need to adjust and need to evolve as it's trying to. But let's speak about let's speak a little bit about the impact, a little bit what you think will happen this year. I mean, you spoke about the challenge, the 2 years that it took you, but I think you are in an incredible spot now with Service Plan, and there's a lot of traction happening with Masumi, with AI in general, blockchain and AI.
Yeah.
How do you feel your impact will be this year? And I will bring it back to try to connect it to the KPIs of 2030. So what do you think will happen this year? What do you think will happen next year?
My main focus right now is I need to make Masumi a successful product. I need to really bring users to it and earn money with it, and really make sure that that the users that are using it get value out of it. And I think we've done a medium good job at that in the past. It was a lot of like infrastructure building and so on. We have some agents, but most people are not going to Masumi every day yet, and are not using it every day. And that's what we are solving, and that's the main focus for me. And everything else is secondary. You need a successful product, otherwise nothing else matters. And by having a successful product, this will increase transactions on Cardano, of course. That's my goal. I mean, we are doing a lot of transactions already. We made around 21,000 transactions so far, which is, fine. It's not amazing, but it's also not bad. NMaker, in comparison, has made 50,000 last year, and NMaker in total has made like 2.2 million. So, Masumi still has catching up to do. But
when you speak about 20,000, in how long? In how much time?
In like, since we launched, I would say like 7 months or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, we want to get those transactions up, but there's also, and obviously that's one of the main KPIs of the Cardano 2030 vision, right? The vision is to get the transactions up, and that's a really, really important one, because only if you get the transactions up do you get the transaction fees up, and only then is Cardano actually sustainable, because the transaction fees are what is funding the stake pools, funding the staking, and so on. So without it, like, the whole chain kind of messes up. The problem is that if a product is really successful, such as Masumi, if we are really successful and we make, hundreds of thousands of transactions, we cannot do that on the layer 1 anymore, because it's too expensive. Right now, we pay for every transaction, we pay like, I would say, between 0.7 and 1 ADA approximately, which is very expensive. Like, we're subsidizing that ourselves at the moment, and we are selling agent runs for 1 USDM, right? So we sell it for 1 USDM, then we take 5% or 10% from that, so we get 10 cents, but we're also paying 1 ADA for it. So we are losing money on every transaction, essentially. And for a while, that's fine. But the problem is not only our problem, it's a problem of every successful application. We need faster transactions, and we need them to be cheaper. Because of that, we have to build our own scaling solution, which we are doing. We announced Hydra Masumi today.
Yeah, I saw it. Amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think that's a core misalignment that Cardano has at the moment. And I think we can only solve it hopefully by having layers, which will then lead to cheaper and faster transactions on the main chain, which is good already. And then secondly, I do think that the Cardano treasury needs to invest into companies and have an additional revenue stream, because if the treasury, for example, now would own a certain percentage of Masumi becomes really successful, even though it's on a layer 2 and it's not making as many transactions on the layer 1, the treasury will still make money, which then can still be distributed to the stakers. So that's kind of how I see it at the moment.
Yeah, it's a very important point. I mean, I agree with you, and we need to find the best relationship between the layer 2 to the main chain, right, and the speed and the cost. That's an innovative one that you get investment into the company, but it's something that we need to solve the relationship there. I think in certain cases, if the let's say the on-chain confirmation is part of the business model, it's like what you try to do with NFT, like with digital passport, for example, identity. It can be part of the business model, and then the on-chain cost makes sense. In some cases, if it's not part of the business model, then you will need and the speed and so on. You will need layers to, and there need to be a good relationship there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have DeFi as well, the costs are not that bad either.
Yeah.
Like if I'm sending, $10,000 to buy like gold on Cardano, I don't care if I have to pay $1.
Yeah.
Like, and so I think for Cardano, for the KPI specifically, DeFi is probably the main focus area. Do you want to talk about the Cardano 2030 vision a bit, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the vision is interesting because in the vision explicitly, it does not mention anything about AI or agents and so on. Like, we are not really integrated into the vision, to be honest, which I don't like, but I do think it's kind of understandable. And I think that Cardano's focus on DeFi will probably suit it the best in the short to long term.
Yeah, I think almost everything eventually will get into DeFi somehow. Like even the agents, there will be payments, right, between the agents eventually, right, on the blockchain.
I mean, they already are. Yeah, those are the 20,000 transactions we already made.
Okay, yeah. But some of it can be then connected somehow to DeFi, like you change to stablecoin, you send in stablecoin, right? I mean, there is the transaction happening in DeFi, but yeah. So, but this is definitely something that we need to dive deeper into. So you have estimation how many transactions you will have by the end of the year?
I think by the end of the year will be, I think we'll definitely be above 200,000 or 250,000, even more maybe. On the main chain, I would say on the main chain 250,000, and then on the layer 2, hopefully we'll have a few million, because then it's easy to make them and cheap.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have the TVL, right, and the new users. So the new users will be the new AI agents, basically.
Yeah, I mean, actually, not only we have the AI agents, but we also like there's humans that are interacting with the AI agents. We built this whole agent marketplace that you can just go to, register, and hire agents from. And it's interesting because we have 6,000 users registered on there right now. And out of those 6,000, like I went through the list, there's maybe like 200 from Cardano, and the remaining 5,800 are from outside Cardano. And they're literally from companies like large enterprises in Europe. Like we have them on the website. There's BMW, Lufthansa, like all these. I see it at the emails. There's a lot of really cool companies who are using Masumi. And they don't know that Cardano is behind the scenes. They don't have to know. They just have to buy the agents, and then in the background it does a Cardano transaction, but they don't care about that. They just care about the agent, and that's how we try to do onboarding. We really don't care about building for the Cardano community right now. We care about building for outside and bringing them into the Cardano community.
Yeah, I think that's again extremely interesting point, and I know there's a lot of people working on that. So I definitely believe in the next 5-10 years, almost everyone will use blockchain without knowing they're using blockchain.
I think so, right? Too.
And there will be many new solutions of fun engagement, of many new solutions coming out. Yep. And people don't need to know what they're actually using, but they will use it because it makes sense, right? Because it provides transparency, traceability, the accessibility, and so on. So yeah, so definitely this is a very strong point. Good. I mean, anything else you want to, why we said before that we are very positive about Cardano for
Yeah.
this year, and
I I
what
mean, I
will
think
kind of,
yeah. So okay, I mean, there's a few things that are going really well for Cardano right now. In terms of just the focus areas, I do like that the KPIs are out and the focus are getting transactions. I know that Charles is hyper focused on that. I know that the CF is super focused on that. So they are aligned in their kind of goals right now, which is very rare to see, but very good. I think that the spending from the treasury that is happening right now is very good and important. Like the increasage of TVL for DeFi. There was a proposal that got passed, I think, for $80 million ADA, which I think is good. There's one now coming from the Draper University or Draper Investments, where they want to invest into companies on Cardano and actually make sure that this investment is then going back into the treasury if there's like some revenue there or profit there, which is also great. That's exactly what I meant, right? So this is amazing. And then on the technology side, there's a few really good developments, like Leos is coming and all this kind of stuff. And then there's like maybe like 5 projects in Cardano, I would say, that have a shot of becoming extremely successful. And we just need one of them to really succeed. We only need one to create like a few 100 million transactions, and Cardano is fine. And then if we have one success, then everything else will fall in place as well. Oh, and then last thing that I really like is still this like focus on Cardano, Bitcoin, DeFi. And I know you're super involved in that with Sundial. But I really like this narrative. I think it makes sense for the outside world. And I think it's directionally the correct thing to do. Like bring the two UTXO chains closer together, make sure that we have a lot of Bitcoin users using Cardano DeFi, even though they don't even know that it's Cardano DeFi. They just can seamlessly interact with it. And and I like that.
yeah, I think this would be extremely, I see the progress of the solutions on Cardano about Bitcoin and DeFi, and that would be extremely interesting this year. I know it started kind of last year with Big Eye, but I think the teams are working and building it. And
Yes.
we'll see, we're already interacting with a lot of enterprises. There's very, very strong feedback. But thank you for that. I'm very excited, I think, for this year and 2030 because of entrepreneurs like yourself, actually, that I think they're working hard in a consistent way to work on the solutions and to find the right. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, and I think you are leading there and very active and doing the work. And just what you said, that all these big companies are already using Masumi. For me, it's incredible because I can go to BMW and say, "Hey, you're already using the Cardano blockchain." And how we use it, we don't even know. No, you're already using it through this product, but look, you can also use it through other things, and that's incredible, right? To start having this access. So thank you for that. I mean, it was kind of. What do you think about the session? It was interesting. It was fun.
I think it was very nice. Yeah, I do like it. I'm looking forward to hearing about all the other guests that you're bringing on board. I mean, we talk a lot, Yoram, so there's nothing new for me. But I hope the listeners get something out of it, and I hope you bring a lot of interesting partners here. And if you make this a regular thing, I think it will be quite cool.
Perfect. No, so for me it was fun, and although I know a lot of the things, I still learned a lot. And and I think it's hopefully we gave some value to the ecosystem, and there's some, and we'll continue that. So we'll hear more about the experience of people and concrete. And the last thing, I think you also mentioned that one big success story will succeed. I did some calculation and then look on some of the project. I think 1 or 2 big projects that can actually meet alone the 2030 KPIs, right? So
I agree.
mean, and if we look on the scale of the potential interaction with some of the enterprises, and all of them will be connected to DeFi. I mean, the DeFi is the base layer, but they all need DeFi eventually. But these big enterprises, if we find the needs and able to find the heroes and build the trust and build the solution, the scale can come from there big time.
Exactly.
So yeah, perfect. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you. I think we finish for today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. I don't know if Benji is listening and can
If he's taking us from live or